Hi, my name is Kylie and I am a teaching artist here in Perth, and I have worked with special needs children and adults for quite a few years now. And in this video, it is my pleasure to share with you things that I have learnt along the way and that I have found helpful, that hopefully you will find helpful also. A lot of the times people ask how I go about planning my activities, and I think the key to a successful session is flexibility and the ability to adapt on the fly, improvise, and embrace what is happening in the moment. So you might have to have a lot of materials ready on hand, or it might mean that you have a few different activities or versions of the activities ready to use if you need. Keeping my eyes peeled and working with what is happening has been really helpful. An example that I can think of is a few years ago I was working in a school and only 2 students arrived to a session. We were expecting a lot more, and they both had quite high needs and needed a lot of assistance. So the activities that I had planned were not going to work. So I learned that one of the students really liked bubbles, the other really liked music. So within no time, because I had the materials there ready, we made bubble snake makers, and we're making bubble snakes and making the bubble snakes dance to the music that the other student was making, and that wouldn't have been able to happen if I wasn't somewhat ready. Activities can be completely different to what you expected them to be. Another thing that I like to consider when planning my activities is having a simplified version of that activity ready, also an extension to that activity ready, because in my experience it's really difficult to receive the information about students and learn their profiles before working for them. So being ready for whatever happens in the moment is very helpful. So if you are noticing that there are students that are finding the activity either quite difficult, or maybe they're having a bit of a sensory overload moment, or you're having children that are very curious and need more, you're ready. During a residency recently, a lot of the students were in wheelchairs. So being able to have small little trays ready to have in front of them to work with was really helpful. Also, they weren't able to achieve a lot of things that were in the activity because of their motor skills. So being ready to assist them and having the materials ready to assist them with a simpler version was really helpful. Another thing that I always consider sensory elements to activities. Touch, smell, sound is really, really important. I have found it's a way in to the activity for some of the students. So bringing out these elements as you work, you find what the children are responding to, and it gets them in the activity. This year, I was working in Bunbury within a school, in a special needs centre, and most of the children were really musical, and luckily I was paired with a musician. So we worked together and made sure that there was music playing during the activities, or they had instruments to play with and drum with while they were creating, and that was really, really helpful. Another example, in the same residency in a different group, a lot of the students were very tactile. So my activity that I had planned went out the window, and instead we worked with Play-Doh and slime and kinetic sand, and we photographed what we created, and that was our artwork. Another sensory element to consider is taste, in the way that children that I've worked with, a lot of them will mouth materials. So I very rarely work with small objects, and opting for materials that are non-toxic. Sometimes I make my own Play-Doh, things like that. So if you know children do eat the materials or mouth them, they're going to be safe. Having only a few extra activities on hand where you're not really required to be next to every student that creating and crafting something, you can kind of float around is really important. So having an activity where the students can be as independent as they can be, along with their carers, of course. So you're able to grab an extra tray of materials or just get the bubbles if you need. I only have 1 or 2 extra activities planned, but then I'll have a lot of materials. So I have bubbles, I have Play-Doh, I have stickers, I have things that I can add into the activity. Very rarely will I completely, stop an activity and replace it. I'll just transition until the activity is completely different. This year I had a main activity planned, and then side activities ready for the children to engage with. If they'd finished the activity early, they weren't interested in what I had planned on the main table, they had other options that they could walk to and be with, and they were consistent throughout the week. So I had Play-Doh, a little discovery tray full of rice and objects that they could find within the rice, and that was a consistent thing that was presented every day, so they knew that that was going to be there. And some of the students went straight to the discovery tray, and would play with the rice and find things, and they never really engaged with anything else. That was their favourite thing, but that was a consistent fun activity for them to play with, and a lot of the teachers were just thankful that they were engaged in that way. Things that I always like to bring with me to activities as just side options are Play-Doh, kinetic sand and moulds and things that children can use. Just tactile things that they can sit with separately from an activity if it's a bit too much or they don't like what I've got planned. Discovery trays are really popular, whether it be rice with hidden objects inside of them, and you can include tweezers if you need, or the children can use their hands to search through the sensory tray. Sensory jars, discovery jars are always really great. You don't have to prepare anything on the day, you make them before, and it's just a jar of rice with things to discover as you turn it, or it's a jar with coloured water and glitter in there to turn and watch and engage with, or a jar with beans or bells, something like that. They're always really great to set up to the side that don't require any supervision. The lids are glued on so children can't access what's inside of them. They can just sit, enjoy, engage, and you can be present with other students within the classroom or space. If you want any more information about where I've gathered these ideas from, there are a few websites that are my go-to that I would be very happy to share with you. There's also some really wonderful shops in Perth and in Bunbury that offer a lot of sensory toys and options and materials to use. If you would like that information, I can get that to you as well. I hope that you found this helpful and that you find some tips and tricks to use when you're working with children with special needs. Thanks.